We live in a world that glorifies productivity. Everywhere you look, you're told to hustle harder, achieve more, and push yourself beyond your limits. If you're not constantly grinding, society labels you as lazy or unmotivated. But what if I told you that this isn't your fault? What if the problem isn't you, but the system? We're all trapped in a system that philosopher Byung-Chul Han calls the Burnout Society. You're not lazy, you're exhausted. You're not failing, you're being crushed under the weight of impossible expectations. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you truly rested, without guilt, without shame, without the nagging feeling that you should be doing something productive?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Let's start by understanding what the Burnout Society is. Byung-Chul Han, a contemporary philosopher, argues that we've moved from a disciplinary society where people were controlled through external rules and punishments to an achievement society where we now police ourselves. In this system, you're not forced to work harder, you force yourself. You push beyond your limits because you've been conditioned to see yourself as a project, something to constantly improve, optimize, and perfect. Success is no longer just a goal, it's your identity. And failure, it's not just a setback, it feels like a personal flaw, a reflection of your worth. But here's the hard truth: the system was designed this way. It thrives on your exhaustion. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how." But what happens when your why is no longer your own? In the Burnout Society, your why is hijacked by external expectations, career milestones, social media validation, and the relentless pressure to always be better. You're told to chase goals that aren't even yours, to measure your worth in likes, promotions, and accomplishments. And when you inevitably fall short, because no one can sustain this pace forever, the system blames you. It doesn't question itself. It convinces you that you're the problem. Do you see how insidious this is? Think about how technology plays into this. We live in an age where the lines between work and rest are completely blurred. Your phone buzzes with emails late at night. Your social media feeds are filled with people showcasing their achievements, their perfect lives, their endless productivity. The philosopher Jean Baudrillard described this as hyperreality, a world where the boundaries between the real and the artificial collapse. You're no longer competing with real people, you're competing with curated versions of reality. And the result? You feel like you're always behind, no matter how much you do. But let's pause here and ask a deeper question. Who benefits from this system? Who profits from your burnout? The answer is simple: corporations, institutions, and power structures that rely on your endless labor. The more you work, the more you consume, the more you conform, the more the system thrives. Karl Marx called this alienation the process by which people become disconnected from their own humanity, reduced to mere cogs in a machine. You're told that hard work will lead to happiness, but the truth is, the system doesn't care about your happiness. It cares about your output. How does it feel to realize that the very system you've been striving to succeed in was never designed to support you? Now let's talk about guilt. One of the most toxic byproducts of the Burnout Society is the guilt you feel when you're not working. Even when you're exhausted, even when your body and mind are screaming for rest, there's a voice in your head telling you to keep going. That voice isn't yours, it's the voice of a society that equates rest with laziness. But rest is not laziness. Rest is resistance. Rest is what allows you to reclaim your humanity in a system that treats you like a machine. Virginia Woolf once wrote, "You cannot find peace by avoiding life." But I would argue that you cannot truly live without making peace with rest. Here's where it gets even more complicated. The Burnout Society doesn't just exhaust your body, it exhausts your soul. It leaves you feeling disconnected from yourself, from others, from the things that truly matter. You're so busy chasing the next goal, the next achievement, that you forget to ask the most important question: why? Why are you doing this? What are you really trying to achieve? And is it worth the cost? Soren Kierkegaard, the father of existentialism, warned us about this. He said, "The most common form of despair is not being who you are." Are you living a life that's true to you? Or are you just trying to meet the expectations of a society that doesn't even see you as a whole person? Let's get personal for a moment. Think about the last time you felt truly alive. Not just productive, not just successful, but alive. What were you doing? Who were you with? How did it feel? Now think about how often you get to feel that way in your daily life. If the answer is not often, then it's time to ask yourself another hard question. What are you sacrificing in the name of productivity? And is it worth it? The philosopher Hannah Arendt wrote about the distinction between labor, work, and action. Labor is the endless cycle of tasks required to sustain life: cooking, cleaning, working. Work is the creation of something lasting: art, ideas, legacies. And action is the expression of freedom, the ability to engage with the world in meaningful ways. In the Burnout Society, we're trapped in labor, endlessly cycling through tasks that feel urgent but ultimately leave us empty. We forget how to create, how to act, how to truly live. How do we break free from this cycle? The first step is awareness. You need to recognize that the problem isn't you, it's the system. You're not lazy, you're overwhelmed. You're not unmotivated, you're depleted. And once you recognize this, you can begin to reclaim your agency. Start by setting boundaries. Say no to the things that drain you. Make space for rest, for play, for things that nourish your soul. This isn't selfish, it's necessary. How can you pour into others if your own cup is empty? The second step is to redefine success. The Burnout Society wants you to believe that success is about doing more, achieving more, being more. But true success is about alignment, living a life that reflects your values, your passions, your truth. This requires you to get clear on what really matters to you. What do you want your days to look like? What kind of relationships do you want to have? What kind of impact do you want to leave on the world? These are not easy questions, but they are essential. Finally, you need to embrace rest as a radical act. Rest is not just about recharging your energy, it's about reclaiming your humanity. It's about saying, I am more than my productivity. I am more than my achievements. I am enough, just as I am. This is not an easy mindset to cultivate in a society that constantly tells you otherwise, but it's possible. And it starts with small, intentional choices: taking a nap without feeling guilty, turning off your phone for an hour, spending time in nature, doing something you love just for the sake of it. You're not lazy. You're a victim of the Burnout Society. But you don't have to stay a victim. You have the power to break free, to reclaim your time, your energy, your life. The question is, will you choose to? Will you challenge the system that thrives on your exhaustion? Will you dare to rest, to slow down, to live a life that's true to you? To challenge the Burnout Society is to challenge the very foundation of how we've been conditioned to live. It's not just about resting more or working less. It's about fundamentally changing how you view yourself and your place in the world. It's about rejecting the idea that your worth is tied to your productivity. Think about this for a moment. If you were to stop achieving, stop striving, stop proving yourself, would you still feel valuable? This is the uncomfortable question the Burnout Society forces us to confront, because it has tied our identity so tightly to what we do that we've forgotten who we are. Let's return to the philosopher Hannah Arenti, who believed that modern society has reduced us to what she called animal laborans beings whose lives are consumed by endless cycles of work and consumption. She argued that we've lost touch with the higher aspects of human existence, the things that make life truly meaningful: creativity, community, and contemplation. When was the last time you allowed yourself to create something just for the joy of it? When was the last time you truly connected with someone, not out of obligation, but out of genuine presence and curiosity? When was the last time you sat in stillness, not to solve a problem or achieve a goal, but simply to be? Byung-Chul Han expands on this idea, warning us that the Burnout Society has turned us into achievement subjects. We are no longer driven by external oppression. We are driven by internalized expectations. We push ourselves to exhaustion, not because someone is forcing us, but because we've been conditioned to believe that rest is weakness, that slowing down is failure. This is why burnout feels so personal. It's not just physical exhaustion, it's existential exhaustion. You're not just tired, you feel empty, disconnected, lost. Does this resonate with you? If so, it's time to ask yourself, who are you living for? Whose expectations are you trying to meet? Nietzsche once said, "Become who you are." It's a simple statement, but it carries profound weight. To become who you are, you must first strip away everything you are not. You must let go of the roles, the labels, the expectations that have been placed on you. You must confront the fear of being seen as lazy, unproductive, or not enough. Because beneath all of that noise, there is a part of you that knows the truth. A part of you that knows you're not here to be a machine, endlessly producing and consuming. You're here to live, to feel, to experience the fullness of existence. But how do we reconnect with that truth in a world that constantly pulls us away from it? The answer lies in what the philosopher Haidiger called being. Haidiger believed that modern society has alienated us from our own sense of being, replacing it with a relentless focus on doing. We've become so obsessed with what we're achieving that we've forgotten how to simply exist. To reclaim your sense of being, you need to slow down. You need to create space for stillness, for reflection, for the kind of deep, unstructured thought that our society undervalues. This isn't laziness, it's wisdom. Let's get practical. One of the simplest yet most powerful ways to resist the Burnout Society is to practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is not just about meditating or breathing deeply. It's about being fully present in whatever you're doing. When you eat, focus on the taste, the texture, the smell of your food. When you walk, feel the ground beneath your feet. Notice the sounds around you. When you rest, truly rest. Don't scroll through your phone or feel guilty for not being productive. These small acts of presence can help you reconnect with your sense of being, reminding you that life is happening right now, not in some distant future where you finally earned the right to rest. Another powerful tool is setting boundaries. The Burnout Society thrives on your inability to say no. It wants you to be constantly available, constantly working, constantly proving your worth. But you have the right to protect your time and energy. Start small. Say no to one thing this week that doesn't align with your values or goals. Turn off your phone for an hour each day. Create a rule for yourself. No work emails after a certain time. These boundaries are not just acts of self-care. They are acts of resistance. They are a way of reclaiming your life from a system that wants to consume it. Let's talk about the fear of judgment. One of the reasons we push ourselves so hard is because we're afraid of being judged by others. We fear being seen as lazy, as unambitious, as not enough. But here's the thing, most people are so consumed with their own struggles that they're not paying nearly as much attention to you as you think. And even if they are, their judgment says more about them than it does about you. The philosopher Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Your worth is not determined by others' opinions of you. It's determined by how you choose to live your life. There's a deeper question we need to ask ourselves. What is the purpose of life? Is it to achieve as much as possible, to accumulate wealth and status, to check off every box on society's list of success? Or is it something more? Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychologist, wrote in Man's Search for Meaning that the ultimate human drive is not pleasure or power, but meaning. Meaning is what sustains us, what gives our lives depth and purpose. But meaning cannot be found in endless productivity. It can only be found in connection with ourselves, with others, with something greater than ourselves. What gives your life meaning? If you're feeling burned out, it's not because you're weak. It's because you've been living in a system that devalues meaning and glorifies output. But the good news is, you have the power to rewrite the script. You can choose to prioritize meaning over productivity, presence over achievement, being over doing. This doesn't mean abandoning your responsibilities. It means approaching them with a different mindset. It means asking yourself, is this adding to my life, or is it draining me? Is this aligned with my values, or am I doing it out of obligation or fear? The philosopher Alain de Botton said, work finally begins to make sense when it becomes a vehicle for our spiritual development. What if you approached your work, not as a means to an end, but as an opportunity for growth, for connection, for expression? What if you stopped measuring your success in terms of how much you've done, and started measuring it in terms of how aligned you feel with your true self? This shift in perspective can be transformative. As we come to the end of this journey, let's return to the central idea. You're not lazy, you're a victim of the Burnout Society. But you don't have to stay a victim. You have the power to resist, to reclaim your time, your energy, your life. It won't be easy. The system will push back. Your own conditioning will push back. But every small act of resistance, every moment of rest, every boundary you set, Every time you choose presence over productivity is a step toward freedom. So I'll leave you with one final question. If you were to live a life that truly reflected your values, your passions, your truth, what would that look like? And what small step can you take today to move closer to that life? Remember, you are not a machine. You are a human being, worthy of rest, of joy, of meaning. The Burnout Society doesn't define you, you define yourself. Will you choose to? To truly reclaim yourself from the Burnout Society, you must first examine the beliefs that have been planted in your mind, beliefs that you didn't choose, but that you've been living by. The most insidious of these beliefs is the idea that your value is tied to your output. From a young age, we're told that hard work is the ultimate virtue, that success is the ultimate goal, and that rest is something you must earn. But have you ever stopped to question these ideas? Who decided that your value is measured by how much you can produce? Who benefits from you believing this? And what would your life look like if you refused to accept it? The philosopher Erich Fromm warned us about this trap in his book To Have or To Be. He wrote, "Modern man has transformed himself into a commodity. He experiences himself as an investment which must bring him the maximum profit obtainable under existing market conditions." Think about that for a moment. You've been conditioned to see yourself as a product, as something to be optimized, improved, and marketed. And when you fail to meet the impossible standards of this system, you don't just feel like you failed at a task, you feel like you failed as a person. But you are not a commodity. You are not an investment. You are a living, breathing human being, and your worth is not something that can be measured in numbers or achievements. One of the most powerful ways to break free from the Burnout Society is to redefine what success means to you. For too long, we've been told that success is about climbing the ladder, accumulating wealth, and achieving status. But if you look closely, you'll see that many of the people who have made it by these standards are deeply unhappy. They've sacrificed their health, their relationships, and their sense of purpose to reach the top, only to find that the view isn't as satisfying as they were promised. As the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer put it, wealth is like seawater. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. What are you chasing? And is it truly worth the cost? Imagine a different kind of success, one that's not measured by external accomplishments, but by internal alignment. Imagine waking up each day feeling calm, grounded, and connected to your purpose. Imagine having time for the things that truly matter, your relationships, your passions, your mental and physical health. Imagine being able to rest without guilt, to work without burnout, to live without the constant pressure to prove yourself. This kind of success doesn't come from chasing more. It comes from choosing less. Less striving, less comparing, less compromising your well-being for the sake of productivity. Are you willing to let go of society's definition of success to create your own? Another step toward liberation is to reconnect with your body. In the Burnout Society, we often treat our bodies as tools to be used and abused in the pursuit of productivity. We ignore their signals, push through their pain, and view rest as a weakness rather than a necessity. But your body is not a machine. It is a sacred vessel, a source of wisdom and guidance. When you're tired, it's not because you're lazy, it's because your body is asking for rest. When you feel tension or discomfort, it's not something to be ignored, it's your body telling you that something is out of balance. How often do you listen to your body? And what might change if you started to honor its needs? The philosopher Alan Watts once said, "You are not a stranger here. You are not an alien. You belong." This is a reminder that you are not separate from the natural rhythms of life. Just as the seasons have cycles of growth and rest, so do you. Just as the ocean ebbs and flows, so do you. The Burnout Society tries to disconnect you from these rhythms, to keep you in a constant state of doing, achieving, and striving. But your true nature is not relentless. It is cyclical. You are not meant to be in perpetual motion. You are meant to grow, to rest, to reflect, and to begin again. Let's talk about creativity. One of the greatest casualties of the Burnout Society is our creativity. When you're constantly focused on productivity, you lose the freedom to explore, to play, to imagine. But creativity is not a luxury, it's a fundamental part of being human. It's how we express ourselves, how we make sense of the world, how we connect with others. And it's not just about art or music or writing. Creativity can be found in how you solve problems, how you nurture relationships, how you see beauty in the everyday. When was the last time you allowed yourself to be creative, not for a purpose, but simply for the joy of it? The philosopher Simone Weil wrote, "Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity." In a world that constantly demands your attention, learning to direct it intentionally is an act of rebellion. What are you giving your attention to? Is it things that nourish you, inspire you, and bring you closer to your truth? Or is it things that drain you, distract you, and pull you further away from yourself? Your attention is your most valuable resource. Be mindful of where you place it, because where your attention goes, your energy flows. Let's get even more practical. One of the most effective ways to reclaim your life from the Burnout Society is to create rituals of rest and reflection. These don't have to be elaborate or time-consuming. It could be as simple as starting your day with a few minutes of deep breathing, ending your day by journaling about what you're grateful for, or taking a walk in nature without your phone. These small rituals can help you reconnect with yourself, create moments of stillness in a chaotic world, and remind you that you are more than your productivity. Finally, let's address the fear of letting go. For many of us, the thought of slowing down feels terrifying. We worry that if we stop pushing ourselves, we'll fall behind. We worry that if we rest, we'll be seen as lazy or unambitious. But these fears are rooted in a system that profits from your exhaustion. What if, instead of fearing rest, you embraced it as a form of resistance? What if you saw rest as a way to reclaim your power, your humanity, your life? The philosopher Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. You cannot change the Burnout Society overnight, but you can change how you respond to it. You can choose to stop seeing yourself as a machine and start seeing yourself as a human being. You can choose to prioritize meaning over productivity, presence over achievement, and being over doing. So I'll leave you with this. What kind of life do you want to create for yourself? Not the life society tells you to want, but the life that feels true to you. What would it look like to live in alignment with your values, your passions, your truth? And what small step can you take today to move closer to that life? Remember, you are not lazy. You're a victim of the Burnout Society. But you don't have to stay a victim. You have the power to break free. The question is, will you choose to?